On a warm, sunny day along the banks of the Ashley River, three key figures in the development of the Palmetto Community Action Partnership sit down to reflect on the organization's successes and its important role in addressing the issue of poverty in the Lowcountry.
This is an honor for me to have you three gentlemen here and to tell us about the history of our organization and our industry and how we got started. And Senator Washington, you were one of the original founders of the first community action agencies in South Carolina. Can you tell us a little bit about that, how that got started?
Well, when President Kennedy got elected president, one of the concerns that he had was about poverty and education in the United States. And one of his first acts was to organize the Office of Economic Opportunity. And that office had a lot of branches dealing with a lot of issues that impact poor communities, et cetera. And one of the major concern was education. And in Charleston, we decided that this was an opportunity to deal with a lot of the educational problem that we had, particularly in the Sea Island area. You know, that was the emphasis was on this rural area, and we had folks like Sister Mary Anthony, Catholic nun, and Ms. Gedney Howe, Henry Grant, and many others who were concerned about getting some of that fund into the Charleston County area. So we decided that we were going to put together an organization, and we met with Sergeant Shriver for an entire day and explained to him how important it was and the condition of poor folks in South Carolina, and particularly in the Charleston County area. So that's where our emphasis was. We established the first 7 Head Start Center in South Carolina, on East Cooper, Johns Island, the Septim Clark Center, Martha Evers out at St. Luke and Hollywood, and Eddie Stowe at my church building at that particular point. And we saw the result because one of the, when they took note of what was going on in those programs, the Head Start program made a whole lot of difference in children's education in this state.
Now, Tecklenbubrg, you were a member of the reconstituted organization called Charleston County Human Services in 1986. That's right. Tell us about that. What are your recollections?
I, as a young businessman and interested in the community, started hanging out with these mentors at a weekly breakfast meeting that Big John Chisholm used to have down at the Francis Marion Hotel. I would go down there, and Judge McFarland would be there, and Senator Washington, and Senator Fielding, and J. Arthur Brown, and other folks. And at that point, the original agency that the senator just referred to had in effect gone out of business, and it was just a shame that Charleston County was not receiving those services and funds that it could be if it had a community action agency. And so the need was there, clearly, to serve low-income folks in the county, and these gentlemen had the foresight and the determination to get it going again, and I was just lucky enough to be kind of standing by and willing to help. And so I'll never forget when we went to Columbia, because we needed the governor's approval, and I was in business at the time, and McKinley might can tell this story better than I, but we went to see Governor Riley, and he had known that there had been some fiscal matters that had led to the earlier agency becoming inactive, and so he asked about that, and McKinley said, well, Tecklenburg's the business guy. He's going to look after the money for us. And so I became the treasurer of the new organization with that business experience that I had. It really showed me the kind of resolve and determination needed to provide programs like these, and it's helped shape my service now to our community as mayor. So it was a great experience for me.
Mm-hmm. Judge McFarland, you were the board chairman at that time, I think, of 1985 of the reconstituted agency. What are your reflections? Tell me what you can remember.
Sure. We talked about Big John and Senator Washington and Herbert Fielding and those political leaders who really understood what had happened in the 1960s that had been so beneficial to lifting our people out of poverty, from poverty to self-sufficiency. And that was really the strength of what we were doing, what we wanted to do. And so when we organized, not only did we organize in an attempt to get the Head Start program back again, but also to have other kinds of programs that would benefit low-income folk. And of course, you know, I grew up in Ragsboro Project. My father worked at the Chamber of Commerce as a janitor. My mother was a homemaker and seamstress. Of course, she had 9 children, so I think she worked harder than my father. But in any case, I understood the benefits of having the community fill a gap between the income of my father and our effort to move from a basically low-income family to a middle-income family. And I'll tell you, you were talking about the information. Mm-hmm. Part of the information that came through OEO, as I recall, allowed my mother to find out about the 235 housing program, mm-hmm. which allowed her to buy the house that we still own in our family today on the corner mm-hmm. of Ashley and Bogart Streets. But it was that program, like so many others, that filled a gap that mm-hmm. couldn't be filled because we couldn't go down to the local bank and get the kind of loan that was necessary in order for her to buy this house. But there was a federal program available that other folk had been taking advantage mm-hmm. of that she found out about, and she used that. And so that is the kind of move from one economic status mm-hmm. to another that OEO, followed by Charleston County Human Services, I believe, allowed our people to take advantage of.
Tell me about the impact of working with the first OEO. How does that affect your outlook in working with the community, especially people who have low income?
We not only start with that CAP agency or the OEO agency, but that branched out with Willis Goodwin. We had the Farm Commission, the program that Jim Clyburn, that really got Jim Clyburn started sending kids to Wilberforce University. We hired Jim. Jim got in that program. That's how he got involved. All of that came out of that CAP agency.
But I think it's also important to note that one of the federal requirements was that users be a part of the operations of the board and the center. And so first of all, you had people who were actually receiving the services who made decisions about what services to offer, which was a wonderful concept. In addition to that, when you think of the employment opportunities, here you had basically an agency that was headed by an African American. Most of the employees were African American, so the agency itself was an employer bringing in millions of dollars into this community. So when you look at, the fact that all of this money is coming in, but it is staying initially within the community, being dispersed, not only for employment, but also in terms of small businesses with whom we collaborated in order to provide those services. I mean, this agency, in terms of its importance to the community, really ran the gamut.
So Arnold, I must admit some sense of satisfaction to be mayor of Charleston and be working with you and Palmetto on affordable housing. We had a ribbon cutting last year, 2 wonderful housing projects that we accomplished together and are working on more. And then the other programs that Palmetto operates, from weatherization and the sustainability aspect of helping folks reduce their energy costs and reduce their expenses and reduce the carbon footprint, and the mentoring programs. It's just real gratifying that we have these programs. They're operating. We're partners and making them happen in our community and helping those in need. The need, unfortunately, is still very real in our community, and so we just keep pushing to keep these programs alive and going, and support them, and support those in need in our community.